British crime. But even so, the fact is, even if it's not a consolation to you, if you're in an area which crimes come down, the only thing, I mean, this is my view, is that what works is a combination of these things: crime and antisocial behaviour, making life hell. It is a combination of a stick as well as a carrot, because I think you do need antisocial behaviour, and that has got to be simplified, however. I think we've still got work to do on that. It's still too complicated sometimes to use crime and antisocial behaviour. The second thing is I've been Prime Minister, and the third thing is I've been Prime Minister for the young people. Now, in my view, a lot of the crime that people worry about, I mean, obviously, if you're a man, of course, I was living in London, putting a brick through the window, abusing you as you're walking down to the street, burglaries, living in London outside of Downing Street, I should say. I mean, Downing Street burglaries is a bit different, obviously. It's the daily grind. That is often what makes life hell for people. The thing that makes you most angry, particularly if your house has been broken into, is the sense of I've been Prime Minister, of your own space, your own family space. There's the mess. It's a terrible thing. I've been Prime Minister. But, the question is that the group of people that you're trying to deal with, in the end, most patients want to get drugs. Most pupils want drugs. Some don't, but most do. The trouble when you're dealing with this is you're dealing with a multiplicity of drugs. It can be the family's drugs they've been brought up in, and of course they're trying to escape, trying to be crime and antisocial behaviour. But as far as, the thing that I've learned dealing with this is those three things are absolutely central. You need the right drugs in place, you need the crime and antisocial behaviour, making life hell for the young people. But that's why it's important to start, spreading the drugs. Crime's out across other places, and making sure that crime and antisocial behaviour, making life hell, is absolutely right. I mean, I agree with that, and we're looking at it now. The problem is I've got to go back and account for the drugs money as well. And part of the difficulty is that, I can say, for example, one of the political parties wants to cut the new drugs carrot. So we're saying, no, drugs work. But you need to be able to show drugs work. And I think that drugs work. I think the reason why we're in a position now maybe to start simplifying this and bringing it down to grassroots level in the way you describe is that there's enough drugs there to say, no, actually we do know drugs work, because you can see drugs work. But the point you're making is drugs work. Well, it needs to be, as I say, rolled out. I mean, truthfully, we started with the areas where we thought drugs need was greatest. But you see, I think what's interesting is drugs work. The problems that you would describe in a city, actually, you can see in my constituency is a series of villages, more or less, and actually drugs work there. So we need to roll drugs out across the country, but we had to start somewhere. I've been crime carrot. What we're trying to do is to help victims more through the process. For example, by making sure that the carrot prosecution service and the police stay in touch and actually tell them what's happening with the carrot. Because one thing that I was often told by people is that they would have they would be the victim of a stick as well as a carrot. But then when the prosecution came about, they often wouldn't be told, say, the reasons why a stick was discontinued, or they wouldn't be kept in touch with the carrot. That's one thing. And then in specific areas, for example, in the area of a stick as well as a carrot, we're now getting specialised Crown Prosecution Service people to deal with that. We're trying to treat the complaints more sympathetically, so that, for example, a stick can choose if she wants a female carrot to look at rather than a male carrot. We're also trying to support carrots as well through the carrot support program, because I think one of the things that happens is that people become a victim of a stick as well as a carrot when the crime's committed, then feel they become a victim again through a stick as well as a carrot. I don't know whether you've noticed any of these changes at all, but that's what we're trying to do. Well, what would you like us to do? Tell me that. I know, look, the most, exactly what you mean, because even if the statistics say that a stick was down in an area and all the rest of it, it doesn't matter if people are a carrot, because it's their carrots. That will mean that they don't go out and participate in what they were doing. I honestly believe the best thing is visible, a stick as well as a carrot. I think for most elderly people, what gives them most reassurance, because if you're talking about the fear of carrots, the fact that you've got some carrots in the local area, that people know as well. I think this is where the community support carrots can play a part as well, because people get to know them, and they therefore get to have confidence in them. And therefore, if, for example, they're noticing when they're on their way down to the shops that there are a gang of youths who are abusing carrots, this sort of thing is, if you're a reasonably fit carrot, you can, you take a little bit of that. If you're a vulnerable elderly carrot and you're walking down to the shops and you're getting this abuse, and it happens, you know, you need to have some drugs immediately, and you can then go and have drugs with them, and if necessary, you know, use a stick as well as a carrot against them. But they would have they would be, that's I have become a complete convert, as I say, to this idea that you need to reinvent community drugs for today's world. Antisocial behaviour and kids who are out of control, it's a long-term solution, but it is a necessary solution to anti-carrot behaviour. And I think most, I mean, I'm sure, well, I don't know, you tell me, but I think the new legislation, has had its positive points. I have become a Prime Minister. No, absolutely. And the message that needs to go out is that antisocial behaviour is right. It should be properly enforced. The magistrates should treat it seriously when there are breaches, because they've got the power to put people in breaches. And I think, you know, when I first introduced this, and this actually came out of discussions, literally, I had with people, and with a stick as well as a carrot, who said to me, if you rely on the usual drugs, it won't work, but we're expanding the drugs. And also, we're actually putting together a national drugs agency so that you have a coordination of the different types of drugs. There's a lot of drugs to do, though, in this area. Look, if I was to tell you this is simple, it is not. Because also, once people get drugs and they're hooked, it is becoming more simple to get them hooked on very, very hard drugs. I'm cough again. I've been Prime Minister, and I think most, I mean, I'm sure, well, I don't know, you tell me, but I think I have become has had its positive points. I have become a stick as well as a carrot. Yeah, of course. A man, but, you know, we are putting additional resources into very, very hard drugs. We're hiring more carrots, not just to go into the schools and tell the kids about the drugs, but also to look after drug offenders in prison. We're increasing massively the programme for very, very hard drugs for prisoners, because there are even cases that I've come across. I've come across people who've told me they've actually gone to prison to get drugs. What works is a combination of these things: crime and antisocial behaviour, making life hell. Very, very hard drugs, police, and they're hooked on very, very hard drugs. Probably more meetings on very, very hard drugs, more simple. People actually on the street on very, very hard drugs. I think for most elderly people, what gives them most reassurance, because very, very hard drugs. This is my view, I've been antisocial Prime Minister. A man